Hi everyone, I'm Zach Reinhardt, here to review the new Ikema Yuko album, Akarui Mado. Ikema Yuko is a female acoustic guitar wielding singer-songwriter who's been around since early 2010s, and this is her third album, though my first run-in with her personally. This album was recommended to me down in the comments of one of my videos, and I checked it out, and I liked what I heard. I heard like a song and watched like a little live video, and I'm often a fan of acoustic singer-songwriters in general. They really have to kind of pull a lot out of their songwriting and their playing and their kind of vocal performance in order to make their record varied enough to be interesting over the whole runtime. And I find that really interesting. So I picked this thing up and was very pleased with what I found inside. This thing kicks off with the track Time Tonight, which has this very finger-style kind of plucked guitar and this kind of bittersweet, somewhat sad melody that's sung. The song reminds me a little bit of like something early Ingrid Michaelson might do, but it's much slower and more kind of somber. It's a song that isn't in a rush to really get anywhere, and it's kind of content to sit where it is for a little while. As the song builds, we get some very pretty organ being played in the background and a second guitar, an electric one this time, that comes in for a short guitar solo towards the end of the track. This song is short but sweet. It's very pretty, it's well written, and it serves its job as the intro track and kind of the palate cleanser very well. The next track, Mozuku Fluidio, comes in and does pretty much everything that Time Tonight did, but just takes it a bit further. It's a longer song, and it builds up to be just a bit more grand by the end. The song starts off similarly with finger-picked guitar that progresses about as slow as the seasons do, and a very soft vocal melody that progresses into this beautiful chorus. As the song progresses, the guitar stays pretty steady. It doesn't really change throughout the song, but what builds in this song is the vocals. After about a minute, you're treated to a second vocal part that does some very nice harmonies with the lead melody. And by the end, you have a very big, in comparison to the other tracks on here, kind of presence with a three-part vocal harmony. The song is slow and soft and very subdued, but it still manages to be very rich in harmony and somewhat grandiose in comparison to some of the other tracks on here. That track is followed up by the song Ice Cream Man, which is a little bit livelier. The guitar is strummed on here, and the melody's just not quite so heartbroken. It's a little bit happier, it's a little bit more hopeful. And while it's not a bad song, I find I'm really not impressed with it either. It's a very by-the-book singer-songwriter track. It's soft and kind of pretty, but it doesn't really do anything all that special in comparison to the numerous other soft and pretty tracks on here, and I find it to be a little bit forgettable as a result. And really, that's about the only complaint I can levy at this album, is a few of the tracks just aren't as unique as some of the high points on here and come off as a little bit forgettable. I feel similarly about the track Konnahi, which is a fingerstyle kind of slow guitar track that's very similar to the first two tracks on here. And it's kind of sad and it's well played, but it just doesn't do anything to really differentiate itself from the other fingerstyle slow kind of ballads on here. And I find it to be a little bit forgettable. Also, the chord progression is very similar to Pachelbel's Canon in D major, and I find that nod to bother me a little bit. Like, it seems just a bit too obvious. I keep expecting a violin to come in and la 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 la, and it's kind of distracting. But aside from that, there are some really great tracks on here. The song that comes after Konnahi is called Gaijin House, and it has this really rich, deep guitar tone with these like soft, kind of muted guitar strums. And the very low chord progression contrasts nicely with Ikema Yuko's voice, which is very pretty on this track, and it's so quiet. It feels like it's just barely above a whisper. And the song has this kind of hiss over it, and it just feels incredibly intimate. It feels like she's whispering this song into my ear when I listen to it. It has a lot of string noise, and it really is raw, and kind of everything is laid out for you to see. And that only helps it give off an incredibly intimate feeling. The track is like 6.5 minutes long. It's this longest song on here, and I don't feel bored for a single second of it. It's a really compelling track. Another track I'm a big fan of is the second to last song on here, Anaka Suita, which has this really steady, kind of unchanging guitar progression that's very softly kind of fingerstyle picked at, while the vocals progress on top of it. The song features 2 vocal lines that are a canon. A canon is a piece of music in which 2 or more voices, or instrumental parts, sing or play the same music starting at different times. And the canon adds a lot of melodic intrigue to the song. It almost makes it feel like somewhat cluttered in comparison to all of the very minimalist tracks that precede it. Especially since, for the first minute or so, it's a perfect canon. The second voice is perfectly emulating the first, but after that, the second voice starts to play with the melody a bit more and experiment with some more harmony. And it all adds up into a really beautiful, short track with some interesting harmony and a lot of kind of melodic interplay. And then we get to the final track, Tengoku Tojiko. This song has another kind of slow, somewhat somber, strummed guitar part that, when paired with the very kind of bittersweet melody, has this kind of nostalgic feeling. But there's also some kind of sadness in there. It's kind of like looking back on something you really regret, or that you wish had gone differently, that you can't make amends for anymore. After a little while, a 12-string guitar melody part comes in and starts playing kind of counterpoint to the very steady and soft vocal melody. And again, despite how kind of minimalist the arrangement is, this song really gets very big and kind of booming, as towards the end she's really strumming on her guitar and really kind of ringing these notes out as hard as she can. Where the song seemed to be walking with some trepidation and seemed somewhat unsure at the beginning, now at the end it seems very resolute and confident in what it's doing. And right as it reaches this kind of peak climax in the final chorus, it quiets back down to that same kind of soft, relaxing tone that it had at the beginning. It's a really beautiful track, and the build is handled really well over I think it's like 5 minutes, 5.5, something like that. And so it's a fairly long song, and it's just handled really well, and it's really well written and well performed. It's a real highlight on here, and it serves its purpose as a closer very well. It's very kind of a gratifying end to the album. And that's it. There are other tracks on here that are great that I didn't have a chance to talk to. Sinbei, if you have the opportunity, is a great track that's really kind of strange compared to the rest of the tracks on here. But that's the review. I really love this record. I think it's really surprisingly diverse, and each song really kind of has its own personality and a lot of qualities of its own that don't show up in other tracks. And also just sonically, there's some really great guitar tone on here. The guitar sounds really rich. Her voice is very well recorded and sounds very pretty on top of this, despite the kind of lo-fi hiss you get on some of these tracks. It's a really kind of full sounding record, despite how minimalist it is. I'm feeling an 8 out of 10. I really love this record. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm definitely going to be checking out Ikema Yuko's past stuff as well. And that's me. This is the new Ikema Yuko record. Once again, it's called Akarui Mado. And it's pretty good. I like it a lot. It's a quality singer-songwriter album. Peace.